Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So today's video is all about katakana, which is a syllabary in Japanese, something that you will be learning when you start learning Japanese, straight away. I've already made a video about learning hiragana, which is the other syllabary, so make sure you check that out because a lot of the tips I cover in this video are very similar to what I already covered in the video about learning hiragana. So when you pick up Japanese for the first time, you may be quite confused because there are so many different sort of alphabets that it uses. So there's hiragana, there's katakana, there's kanji, and you might be thinking, what am I gonna do first? Where do I start? So my tip would always be start with hiragana because that gives you a head start. Once you know hiragana, you will be a million miles further along the journey than you were when you first started, because hiragana is basically something that allows you to write phonetically in Japanese. So even words that you might know that use a kanji to write them properly, you will be able to write them down using hiragana phonetically. Katakana is the other type of kind of phonetic syllabary that exists in Japanese. It has 48 characters and basically they are very similar to the hiragana characters. So once you've learned hiragana, you will then be able to learn katakana quite easily. The other similarity is basically hiragana and katakana use the same sounds, exactly the same sounds. So for example, the sound ki exists in hiragana and katakana. It's written slightly differently, but it is exactly the same sound. The reason I told you that I would recommend learning hiragana at the start is because it is much more common. Katakana obviously is used as well, so you need to learn it, but you can do it next. So katakana is basically used for writing things like names and food names that don't have an equivalent in Japanese. Also things like sounds and animal noises, for example. So like I said, when you're learning katakana, there are 48 characters, I think, that you will have to learn, and it is absolutely possible to learn it in one weekend. I said the same thing in my video about hiragana. I think, some people say you will need a couple of weeks or maybe a month to learn it properly, but if you really concentrate on it, if you really focus a lot of time on it, you can actually learn it in one weekend. When you're learning katakana, there will be 4 different components to the learning process. First, you will need to know what the characters look like, and you will need to know how they are produced, so the order of the strokes that you write to create the characters, and you will basically need to learn how to write them. The second component will be about learning the pronunciation of the characters, so looking at each character and knowing how it's pronounced. The third component will be remembering the way the characters look, just to make sure that you've memorized it, and when you see them again, you will know that that's the characters that you're looking at. And the fourth component is basically about learning to associate the sound with the way it looks, so memorizing the pronunciations. And I would recommend that you combine steps 2, 3, and 4 to make sure that you're learning the pronunciation, the way it's written, the way it looks, all at the same time. And that way, when you're learning in katakana, you will not be kind of thinking about the symbol and then trying to translate it into a sound in your head. You will look at the symbol and you will know exactly how it's pronounced straight away. So when you're learning katakana, similarly to hiragana, there will be a method that involves creating kind of image associations and sound associations with the characters that you're learning to help you memorize them. So when you look at certain characters in katakana, they will look like something, or they will look like a letter, for example. So for example, the sound for ki in katakana actually looks like a key. You could draw a key, which is the thing that you use to unlock doors. You could draw it into the katakana character for ki, and basically that will help you memorize the character and the sound that you have to make to read it. So everything in katakana will be an image. You will be able to associate each of the sounds with some kind of image or some kind of sound that image is related to, and that will help you with the memorization. Often you will need to stretch your imagination a little bit. You will need to imagine different things like animals, body parts, or letters that are written inside of those characters. But it's quite a fun process, and I definitely recommend it because it makes things so much easier to memorize. In terms of how I personally learned it, I used an app called Memrise. I'm sure that you have heard about it. It's very popular. This is not a sponsored video. I have worked with Memrise before, but I'm basically just making a genuine recommendation. I used Memrise to learn both Hiragana and Katakana, and I literally did it in one weekend. So when you're learning Katakana, just like in Hiragana, you will have 5 different vowel sounds that you will need to learn first. And the reason you need to learn them first is because those vowels will come up in all the other characters that you're learning. So you will have different groups of characters in Katakana. So for example, a group made up of the consonant sound K and then all the different vowel sounds. So that you will have ka, ki, ko, ku, and so on. So I definitely recommend that when you're learning Katakana, you download or you look up a Katakana chart, which will basically be a grid that sets out all the different vowel sounds, and then it groups all the other sounds together under the consonants that go in each group. So you will have like the K group, so the ka, ki, ku, and then you will have like a G group, so ga, gi, gu, and so on. So learning like that, following the chart, learning the sounds by groups will make it easier and faster. So to help with the memorization process, I definitely recommend that you learn some words that use katakana in Japanese to write them down. So there will be a lot of words like that. You can just look them up, just Google Japanese words written in katakana, and you will see how many of them there are. There are usually words that have foreign origins, and memorize those words and then try to write them using katakana to practice. It's a very good way to practice, and I definitely recommend that you also practice by writing by hand. I know that we don't really do a lot of handwriting these days, but I personally believe that it really helps with the memorization process, the learning process. It makes you more familiar with the way the characters look, so it improves your reading skills as well, because then when you will be seeing those characters written down, you will recognize them more easily. And then obviously you will need to practice recall, so recalling the characters when you need them. So you will need to know when you're writing in Japanese how to write a particular sound in katakana, and you will also use your recall to know how to pronounce katakana when you see it written down. So I definitely recommend using flashcards for that. You can have the katakana character on one side and then the pronunciation on the other side, and you can practice your recall that way. So I hope you enjoyed my tips on learning katakana. I will be making more videos about Japanese in the future because I know it's a language that many people on YouTube are interested in, and also a language that's very special to me and something that I want to focus on in 2020. So keep an eye on my channel and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!